Okay, I've been working out for about a year, been trying to eat right, but my weight isn't going down and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. What suggestions can you make?
So my suggestion, so when you say you eat right, the first thing I would suggest is again this food diary that we talked about before. Because when you actually look at a food diary, it sometimes becomes very clear very quickly that actually you're not eating right. And the other thing I would say is what actually constitutes right. It's a really interesting point that has just become this huge political hot potato of what is the right way to eat. Because obviously if we all knew that for sure, nobody would be overweight anymore, we'd all be healthy. Over the last 20 or 30 years, low fat has become this mantra that the government, that everybody tells us. There's this food pyramid that we've all seen. It's got a huge base along the bottom with bread, rice, potatoes and pasta. And then it goes further and further up. And right at the top in a tiny little bit is fats to eat sparingly. This low fat approach is what we've been told and told and told. And yet everyone's still getting fatter. And there's a lot of research, there's a lot of things that you look at now that actually says some fats are particularly bad for you. A lot of these fake fats, trans fats, hydrogenated fats, the fats that you find in these processed foods, the fats that your body has never seen before and doesn't know what to do with, they're particularly bad for you. But then there are fats that you find in natural foods, fats that you find in avocados, that you find in salmon and mackerel and oily fish, fats that you find in nuts and seeds. Now these fats are good for you. These fats are the fats that will help your brain grow. Every single cell in your body, its membrane is made up of fat. Your cells need fat in order to be healthy. There are two types of vitamins, water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. If you're not getting enough fat, these vitamins aren't carried around your system correctly and you're not absorbing them. We all need far more fat than we think we do, and the right sorts of fat, in order to stay healthy. We're all eating all this low fat, we're not getting in the right sorts of fats. And the flip side to this is in order to make a food low fat, the manufacturers normally have to add something to it. Because fat is what makes the food taste good. It's what makes the food fill us up, it's what gives it texture, it's what gives it taste. Now normally if you actually take fat away from a food, you fill it in with sugar. You fill it in with other nasties. Jelly babies are low fat. In fact, almost zero fat. Table sugar is low fat. And nobody is suggesting that a bag full of that would be any good for anybody. Low fat is not great in itself. And I meet so many people whose diets are low fat beyond any reasonableness. They're absolutely phobic about eating half an avocado. And yet when you actually look at what they're eating, there's hardly any real food in there at all. It's all this processed low fat food which has been chemically altered to reduce the fat. Then they've added back in sugars and sweeteners and E numbers and colourings. And these foods are not good for you at all. So I would say that if you say you've been eating well, but somehow the weight's not coming off, then actually I would say to you, one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result every time. If you're eating a certain way and you're not happy with the way you look and feel, then something isn't working and something isn't right. It's my job to work with you to help you to find out what that something is. And quite often it does involve actually changing the way you eat, changing the foods that you eat, and actually allowing you far higher fat content but far fewer processed foods and sugar contents.